The knife slipped from her hand and clattered to the kitchen floor. She didn't even hear it hit. Not really. Her ears were ringing, and her breath caught mid-chest as she stared out the window. He was standing across the street, drenched in rain, hood up, face tilted just enough for the streetlight to cast a shadow, but she knew that profile. Every inch of her body screamed recognition. Every cell fired memory. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be him. Not after the fire. Not after the coffin. Not after the way her world collapsed 5 years ago. But it was him. Daniel. She blinked hard. Once, twice, but he was gone. Only the echo of thunder remained, rolling across the sky like a warning. She didn't sleep that night. Lay in bed, staring. At the ceiling, her heart thudding in her throat. The rain tapped against her window like it was trying to say something. He's alive. Or she was going insane. Maybe that was more likely. After everything, after losing him, after what came after. She woke up at 5:12 a.m., still in her clothes from the night before, hands shaking as she poured coffee. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. You shouldn't have come back. Her blood froze. She hadn't told anyone she was back in Havenridge. She had no family left here, no friends. Not anymore. The small town had swallowed her secrets once. She thought enough time had passed that it wouldn't remember her. Apparently, someone did. 3 hours later, she was standing outside the old bakery. It was boarded up now. The fire had taken the block, taken Daniel, taken her unborn child, taken everything, but not everyone, apparently. I saw him, she whispered. Who? Came a voice from behind her. She spun around, heart hammering. Was Lena, her old friend, or something like it? Their relationship had never recovered from the investigation. Too many accusations. Too many silences. Lena's hair was shorter now, her eyes harder. I saw Daniel, Ivy said. Last night. Outside my house. Lena's face didn't move. Not even a flicker, just a long pause. Then flatly, Daniel's dead. I know what I saw. Maybe you saw what you wanted to see. Back home, Ivy pulled out the only box she hadn't unpacked, the one marked Daniel Private, in a faded Sharpie. Inside, a copy of the fire report, ruled accidental. Photos of their wedding, a USB drive she'd never been able to open, and a burnt, blood-stained note she found in the ruins of their home, addressed to her. If you find this, I'm sorry. It was never meant to end this way. She held the note for a long time. There were things Daniel never told her, whispers she'd ignored, odd phone calls late at night, and a week before he died, he'd withdrawn $30,000 from their joint account. She'd convinced herself it was for renovations. Now she wasn't so sure. That night, she didn't sleep either. At 2:47 a.m., her phone buzzed again, a photo this time. Grainy, night vision, her in bed, sleeping. Her blood turned to ice. She checked the windows. The locks. Her pulse racing so fast she thought she might pass out. Her heart pounded in her throat as she stumbled through the dark hallway, bat in hand, breathing ragged. Nothing, no sign of anyone, only the growing terror curling around her like smoke. The next morning, Ivy drove to the police station. She knew what they'd say. But she had to try. Officer Brooks, new to town, listened patiently, took notes, promised to look into it. But his eyes said something else. Grief hallucinations, delusions, trauma resurfacing. She could see it in the way he said, "Ma'am," like she was fragile. He didn't know Havenridge like she did. The secrets buried under these quiet streets, the things no one ever said aloud, the things she never told anyone. 3 days passed. No more texts, no sightings. She tried convincing herself she'd imagined it all, until she went to the market. Someone bumped into her in the spice aisle. Hard. She turned around. No one. Just a slip of paper in her coat pocket. One line. Block letters. Stop. Digging or you'll end up like him. She gripped the shelves to stay upright. Back home, Ivy pulled up the USB drive. She'd never had the courage to open it before. But now she had no choice. It took 10 minutes to figure out the password. She tried birthdays, anniversary, their dog's name. Nothing worked. Then she typed the name they were going to give their child. Ellis. The screen blinked. Access granted A. Folder opened, videos, documents, one labeled, "If I disappear, start here." Her hands were trembling so hard she almost dropped the laptop. She clicked. Daniel's face appeared, pre-recorded, unshaven, nervous. "If you're watching this, Ivy, it means something went wrong. I was supposed to leave clean, but maybe I didn't make it." Her breath caught. "I lied to you about a lot, but I did it to protect you." There was a pause. He looked over his shoulder. "There are people I got involved with, bad people. You remember the night the bakery caught fire? That wasn't an accident," she gasped. "I was going to testify, but someone offered me a deal. Fake my death, walk away, protect you." He leaned closer to the camera. "But if you're watching this, it means they found out I told you the truth, which means you're not safe anymore. Ivy, run." The screen went black. She stared at the laptop for a long time. Then she heard it, a creak from the hallway. Her blood went cold. She stood, quietly, every muscle tight. Another sound. The back door. It was open. She picked up her phone, backing toward the front. Then she saw it, a shadow. In her kitchen, not Daniel, someone bigger, masked. She bolted, phone in hand, sprinting out the front door barefoot, heart pounding. No time to think, just one goal: survive. She didn't stop running until she reached Lena's house, pounded on the door until it opened. Lena stared at her, wild-eyed, barefoot, gasping. "Jesus, Ivy, what happened?" Ivy shoved the USB drive into her hand. "You need to see this," she said. "It wasn't an accident. The fire, Daniel, none of it." Lena opened her mouth to speak, but her eyes widened, staring past Ivy's shoulder. "What?" Ivy asked. Turning slowly, there, at the end of the driveway, a man watching them, rain falling. Hood up, he turned and walked away into the dark, but not before Ivy saw his face. This time, there was no doubt. Daniel was alive. Ivy didn't remember walking back inside Lena's house. 1 second she was staring at Daniel's face in the rain, and the next she was slumped on the kitchen floor shivering, while Lena wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "You need to tell me everything," Lena said, crouching down beside her. "From the beginning." Ivy couldn't speak. Her lips barely moved. "He's alive," Lena nodded once, slowly. "I saw him too." The silence stretched between them. 5 years of grief, 5 years of guilt and half-healed wounds, and now this, a man they had buried, back from the dead. Ivy pushed the USB drive across the table. "Watch it. I'll make coffee." Lena inserted it into her laptop. Ivy turned her back to the screen, pretending she wasn't listening, but she heard every word. Daniel's voice. Daniel's lies. Daniel's warning. When it was over, Lena didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she looked up. "He said he did it to protect you. He also said he took a deal," Ivy said. "He faked his death, Lena, left me to bury an empty coffin." Lena stood and walked to the window. "You're sure it was him last night?" Ivy's jaw tightened. "I know his walk, his eyes, his voice. I love that man. I would have died for him." "And maybe he thought you would." Later that night, Ivy couldn't sleep again. She curled up on the couch, listening to the rain. Every sound felt suspicious. Every shadow moved wrong. She turned Daniel's words over in her head. Bad people, not an accident. Run! She didn't run. She needed answers. The next morning, she drove to the place she'd avoided for 5 years, the old storage unit Daniel used to rent on the outskirts of town. Her name wasn't on the lease, but the old manager remembered her. Said the unit had been cleared years ago, but something felt off. The storage door had fresh scratches on the lock, like someone had broken in recently. "Did Daniel ever come back here?" she asked. The man hesitated. Said his name was Derek. Looked like a ghost. Told me he needed to grab something he left behind. When? About 2 weeks ago. Ivy's throat closed. Daniel had been here, preparing something, digging through the past before showing himself. But why now? Back in her car, Ivy stared. At the steering wheel, something Daniel said in the video kept ringing in her ears. "There are people I got involved with." She opened her phone and searched one of the names from the USB folder, Mason Rourke, an ex-investigator turned blackmailer, once accused of arson for hire. Never convicted. His name had come up twice during the bakery fire investigation, and then disappeared. She dug deeper and found a classified ad posted under a fake name. A P.O. box address in Haven Ridge. Rented last week. She didn't know what she was doing, only that she was done being afraid. She wrote a note. "I need to talk. I'm not angry, I just want the truth. Ivy." She mailed it to the P.O. box, then waited. That night Lena called. "Ivy, you need to come over." "Why?" "There's something I never told you. About Daniel. About the night of the fire." Ivy drove in silence, wind howling outside. "When?" Lena opened the door. Her face was pale. "I wasn't with my parents that night," she said. "I lied." Ivy stared at her. "I was with Daniel." The words landed like a slap. Lena turned away. "He called me, said he needed help. He was scared, said someone was watching him, that he'd made a mistake, that if anything happened to him, it was because he'd tried to walk away." Ivy felt her world tilt. "You didn't tell me. I thought you'd lost enough. I didn't want you blaming yourself." Ivy laughed bitterly. "So you let me believe he burned to death. I thought he did. He made me leave, told me to run and not come back." "Lena, were you sleeping with him?" Silence. Lena looked at the floor. Ivy stepped back like she'd been punched. "Oh my God." "I didn't plan it," Lena whispered. "It started after you miscarried. You were so broken, and he felt helpless. And I trusted you." Ivy, "No, you don't get to speak." She walked out without looking back. Back home, there was a letter waiting in her mailbox. No return address, just her name. Inside, a note written in hurried block letters. "You're in danger. Meet me at the edge of McAllister Woods tomorrow. 2 a.m. Come alone. D." She stared at the paper. Her hands trembled, but she felt something she hadn't in days. Clarity. It was time for answers. At 2 a.m., Ivy stood at the edge of the woods, heart pounding. The air was wet and cold. Fog clung to the ground like ghosts. She waited. Footsteps crunched behind her. She turned, and there he was, Daniel, 5 years older, paler, eyes heavier, but unmistakably him. She didn't move, didn't breathe. "Ivy," he said, voice breaking. She slapped him. He let it land. "You left me," she said. "You let me grieve you." "I had no choice. You always had a choice. You just didn't pick me." Daniel swallowed hard. "I was protecting you." "No," she said. "You were saving yourself." He looked like he'd been stabbed. "But she wasn't done. You cheated on me. With Lena." Daniel went pale. "She told me everything," Ivy hissed. "The night of the fire, the affair, all of it." He stepped back. "I didn't mean to. It was a mistake." "No. Dying was a mistake. Faking it was betrayal." His face twisted with pain. "Ivy, please. They're watching you. You shouldn't have come back." "Who?" she asked. "Mason Rourke." He froze. "I know everything." She said, "What you did, the money, the testimony you were supposed to give, the blackmail. You let people die, Daniel." He didn't deny it. "I tried to stop them," he whispered, "but they threatened to kill you." She stared at him for a long time. Then finally, "Why come back now?" "I saw Lena last month." he said. "She told me you were coming back. I panicked. I didn't want you to get dragged into this again." Too late. He stepped forward. "I never stopped loving you." She didn't move. A branch snapped behind them. They both turned. Flashlight clicked on, then another. Voices, footsteps. Daniel grabbed her hand. "Run!" They sprinted through the woods. Gunshot. She ducked. Another shot. Closer. Daniel pulled her down into a ravine. Silence. "I told you," he whispered, gasping. "They know everything. We have to leave Haven Ridge." She turned to him, and for a moment, just a moment, she saw the man she once loved, but that man was buried under too many lies. When they got to the road, his car was waiting. He opened the passenger door for her. She paused. "What did you do with the money, Daniel?" He didn't answer. She got in anyway. But in her pocket, she slipped her phone into record mode. If she was going to survive this, she needed the truth. All of it. The car was too quiet. Ivy stared out the window as Daniel drove them past the edge of town, her phone silently recording from inside her jacket pocket. Her hand trembled, but not from fear, from control, from the choice she knew she had to make. She had to find out who Daniel really was now, or who he had always been. Daniel glanced sideways at her. "You okay?" "No," she said flatly. He sighed. "I didn't plan to drag you back into this." "You planned to let me think you were dead." He didn't answer. The road twisted, leading them into the woods. "Where are we going?" she asked. "A safe house," he said. "Off the grid, just for a few hours. I need to show you something." Ivy looked at him, heart thudding. "You said they tried to kill you, that they burned the bakery down." Daniel's grip tightened. "On the wheel. It wasn't just about the money. I was going to testify against Mason Rourke. He offered me a way out, then turned on me." "And Lena?" she asked coldly. He exhaled hard. "Ivy, that was never supposed to happen." "I loved you," she said, voice trembling. "I buried you." He didn't look at her. "I hated myself every day, but if I came back, they would have come after you." She didn't respond. She needed to hear him lie. One more time, all of it. The safe house wasn't a house. It was a broken-down hunting cabin, half buried in vines and dust, far into the forest where no cell signal reached. Daniel led her inside. Ivy glanced around. A single table, a rusty stove, no power. Then she saw it, a large black binder sitting in the middle of the table. "What's that?" He opened it. Inside were photos, documents, names. The first was Mason Rourke, grinning beside a courthouse. The second was Detective Hal Briggs, the officer who declared Daniel's fire an accident. "I started collecting everything," Daniel said. "All the people who knew or looked the other way. There's more. Politicians, cops, even your ex-boss at the bank." She flipped through pages of invoices, bribes, falsified reports. "You're telling me this whole town is corrupt?" Daniel looked at her. "Not just the town. The state. The fire wasn't the first. It was part of a pattern." "And you? What were you part of?" He hesitated. "I was recruited to launder money, quietly, through the bakery." "You cooked croissants and laundered cash," he winced. "I didn't know at first, but once I found out, I was in too deep." Ivy stared at him. "And instead of telling me, you cheated on me, then vanished. I was trying to protect you." "Stop saying that." He reached out, but she stepped back. "Did Lena know?" she asked. "No, not until later." "Liar." Daniel looked away. She laughed bitterly. "You used us both, and you're still lying." "Ivy, please. I've changed. I came back for you." "No," she said. "You came back because Lena started getting nervous. Because maybe she told someone. Maybe she got scared." Daniel blinked, and in that second, that micro-hesitation, she knew. "You thought she'd talk," Ivy whispered. "You came back to shut her up." His silence was the answer. Her mind raced. Lena had lied to her, but she hadn't been wrong. About one thing, Daniel was dangerous. You weren't running, Ivy said slowly. You were circling back, tying up loose ends. Ivy... She pulled the phone from her pocket, still recording. His face went white. You think I didn't come prepared? She said, voice low. You think I didn't learn anything in 5 years? She backed toward the door. You have... No proof, he growled. No, she said, holding up the binder. This says otherwise. He lunged. She turned and ran. She hit the woods like lightning, crashing through the brush, clutching the binder. Behind her, Daniel's voice roared. Ivy, stop! She didn't. She ran until her lungs burned, until her knees gave out. Then she dialed the one number she never thought she'd call again. Lena, I need your help, Ivy gasped. Ivy, I have proof. He tried to kill me. Where are you? I don't know. Somewhere near Crescent Ridge, north of town. Find me. 30 minutes later, headlights cut through the trees. Lena jumped out of the car. Ivy stumbled into her arms. You were right, Ivy whispered. About everything. Lena helped her into the passenger seat. Let's end this. They drove to the local paper first, handed over the binder to a reporter Ivy once went to school with. She recognized him by the tremble in his hand as he flipped through the pages. Then they drove to the station, straight to the one honest cop left, Officer Jane Lynn, who'd lost her brother in the same bakery fire. This is your proof, Ivy said. Jane stared at the evidence. We'll need a statement. I'm ready. As dawn broke, Ivy stood outside the police station. Her body ached. Her soul felt shredded. But for the first time in 5 years, she felt free. Then her phone buzzed. A blocked number, she answered. You think this is over? Daniel's voice hissed. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I'm not afraid of you anymore. You should be. The line went dead. Ivy turned to Lena. We just exposed a criminal ring, Ivy said. What do we do now? Lena's face was pale. Now, we survive. But Ivy wasn't satisfied with surviving. She wanted justice. She wanted revenge. That night, Ivy opened her laptop and uploaded the video she'd recorded of Daniel to 5 different anonymous Dropboxes. Just in case. Then she typed a message. To whoever's been covering this up, I know what you did. I'm not running. I'm exposing everything. The girl you thought was dead inside. She hit send. The war had begun, and Ivy was no longer a victim. She was becoming something else, something unstoppable. The court hearing was set for Friday. Ivy hadn't slept in 3 nights. The city buzzed with rumors. Local headlines read, Whistleblower exposes secret criminal network, and 5-year cover-up linked to fire bribes and fake death. But inside Ivy, there was no sense of victory, not yet. Not until Daniel was locked away, not until she could walk the streets without checking over her shoulder, not until the version of her that Daniel broke was finally dead and buried. She stood in front of the mirror, the same mirror she used to stare into when she was 25, still married, still naive, still believing the man she loved could never lie. Now she was 31, and she didn't recognize the woman staring back. Her eyes were sharper, her shoulders straighter. Her mouth didn't tremble anymore when she said his name. Daniel was out on bail. Barely. He'd vanished again after the phone call. His lawyer claimed he was gathering evidence for his defense. Translation, hiding. The police had issued a warrant, but Daniel was smart. Always had been. That's why Ivy had to be smarter. I'm going to finish this, she told Lena. They sat at a quiet booth in a diner outside town. Ivy had a burner phone, a map, a plan. Lena shook her head. You don't owe him anything. I'm not doing it for him, Ivy said. I'm doing it for me. You think he'll show? I think if he thinks he can manipulate me one last time, he'll come running. And if he tries something, Ivy looked Lena in the eye. I'm not that girl anymore. They chose the location carefully. Ivy's old family barn, long abandoned, tucked behind a stretch of hills no one drove past anymore. She left the message anonymously through an encrypted app. Meet me where? We first met. No cops, just you and me. You want the rest of the evidence? Come get it. She waited in the cold. 10 minutes passed, then 20, finally Footsteps, then his voice. "You shouldn't have come alone." She stepped out of the shadows. "I didn't." From behind him, a red dot appeared on his chest. Daniel froze. Lena stepped out, holding a small recording device. "Smile for the mic, Daniel." "Ivy." "No," she cut in. "Not this time." He laughed, bitter and low. "You think this is justice? You think bringing me down stops any of this?" "No," Ivy said, "but it's a start." The audio recording that night, Daniel admitting to orchestrating the fake death, covering up evidence, and attempting to silence Ivy, was more than enough. The media ran it on every platform. He was arrested within 24 hours. So were 2 city officials, 1 bank executive, and a retired fire chief. More followed. The dominoes didn't just fall, they crashed, and Ivy, for the first time in her life, felt the ground steady beneath her feet. 6 weeks later, the courtroom was full. Not for Daniel's sentencing, that had come and gone, but for Ivy. She was being honored by the city for exposing one of the biggest corruption scandals in recent state history. She stepped to the podium, a simple note in her hand. Her voice was calm. "I never planned to be here. I never thought I'd live past the day I buried my husband." A pause. "But the truth is, I buried someone else that day too. The woman who thought being loved was enough to be safe." The room was silent. "I was betrayed by the man I trusted most. I was lied to by people paid to protect me, and for a long time I let the guilt destroy me. But that's not how the story ends." She looked straight ahead. "Because sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are." Applause erupted. But Ivy barely heard it. She wasn't doing this for applause. She was doing it for every woman who thought they had to stay quiet to stay alive. Outside, Lena waited by the car. Ivy smiled. "Let's get out of here." "Where to?" Ivy looked. "At the horizon. Anywhere. Somewhere new. Somewhere I don't have to remember who I was before all this." Lena handed her a key. "I bought a cottage near the ocean." Ivy blinked. "You what?" "Figured we deserved a fresh start and some waves, maybe peace." Ivy took the key. For the first time in years, her hands didn't shake. Later that night, as waves crashed outside her new window, Ivy opened her laptop one last time. She typed, "I'm not hiding anymore. To the girl I used to be, I'm proud of you. You survived the fire. You survived the silence. You turned your pain into power. This is your story now." Not his. Ivy. She hit publish, then closed the laptop. The war was over, and Ivy had won, not by destroying someone else, but by rebuilding herself, piece by piece. And this time, she wasn't burning anything down. She was planting new roots. The end.